Have you guys seen the ports? If you haven't seen the ports, go ahead and look in your search bar for Los Angeles ports or Seattle ports, because it is being reported they're an absolute ghost town. And the last ships are coming in at the end of this month. And on the East Coast, it's not getting any better. The last ship coming in from China is targeted for May 10th. And if you look at ports in China, the largest port in China, it is an active, busy hub. So it shows you it's not something that's sweeping the...
Hello family, welcome back. On today's episode, we'll be taking a look at empty ports, especially in Los Angeles and Seattle. With the ongoing tariffs wars between China and USA, China is fighting back by sending empty containers to ports in the United States. Americans are complaining as their shelves will go dry if this war continues. We now see ports not being busy as usual. Here are the videos. Let's watch.
The globe here, this is not COVID. This is more directed. This is direct effect of Donald Trump and his tariffs. And I'm not going to come in here and fearmonger and say we're not going to have anything, but you better believe if ships are not docking and they are not taking goods off those ships and they are shipping empty, 40+% of ships are shipping like empty or close to empty. What do you think that's going to happen? The only logical conclusion is there are going to be less goods on the shelves. And it's not only going to be, your toys and electronics and things that you can get by without during a recession. It's going to be food, vegetables, fruits, grains, all sorts of things like that we import. We import a lot of beef and pork and things like that. Even though we have it here, we also import a lot of food as well, a lot of other meats from other countries. And you're going to see a drastic change in the next coming month. In the grocery store, in the retail shop, Walmart CEOs, Target, Home Depot, those CEOs sat down with Trump and said, look, the shelves are going to be barren. We are going to be in a huge issue. And even if he stops the tariffs today and says, oh boy, it was a huge mistake, that doesn't just turn around. So I myself am going to be going to Costco and buying some of those staples, making sure I have a big ass bag of rice, some beans, toilet paper, whatever. I'm not saying panic shop, don't panic shop, but just make sure maybe you buy an extra of what you normally buy. Get yourself a little bit of extra shelf stable foods so that you make sure you have something, because these ports, they're empty. That's not hyperbole. That's not fear-mongering. That's just the truth. And two, you're not going to have those things on the shelf. We're not getting them in from these countries. When the ports are empty, the shelves will be empty. And this is all thanks to one man and his stubborn ignorance, just absolute nonsense, and having no understanding of how anything works in this world. We saw it the first time around and we knew it was going to be worse the next time. So here we go. Welcome to Trump's world.
I hope y'all waking up and actually paying attention to what's going on right now. The California ports, one of the busiest in the world, is looking hella empty right now, y'all. It's no ships pulling in, no shipments going out. And they trying to tell us, oh, don't worry, it's just because of the tariffs. The tariffs is the reason why this is happening. Maybe it is a little bit of the tariffs, but what else is it? Y'all just seen what happened the other day in some parts of Europe. Power outages. I'm talking blackouts everywhere. 50 million people was affected. And they talking about some solar activities. And now the supply chain is drying up quietly? I'll ask yourself, what moves easier through empty ports? Goods or something else? You think they clearing it out for business? Or they clearing it out for something they don't want to tell us? We gonna have to figure it out once it happened. Y'all gotta remember, every time history changed overnight, it started quietly like this. I'm telling y'all, we haven't seen the full picture yet, but best believe this shit's already in motion, y'all.
Pay attention, everybody. Things have officially started to get real for people in the United States. So if you are in the United States, pay attention to this video. Let's talk about it. Because of the trade war between China and the United States and the tariffs that have been put into place, China has stopped sending the amount of goods that it used to send to the ports around the United States. Ports in Seattle Oakland, as well as Los Angeles, y'all, have all confirmed a shortage in the boats that they're receiving to these ports. What does that mean for the people of the United States? A shortage will eventually start to hit us. We will see empty shelves or less things being stocked on these shelves because we are receiving less goods into the country. So if we're receiving less goods, they have even less goods to put out on the shelves. Of course, people in certain stores have back stocks of things that they can pull from the back and put on the shelves. But I mean, coming directly from these ports, it's going to be a shortage. So eventually, it will be a shortage for us in these stores. Correct. The things they have an over amount, an overflow of, the cost of those things will skyrocket. If you can go in there and get a pack of bread that was $1.09 at first, that bread probably gonna be $2 to $3 now. The price is going to skyrocket, double, maybe even triple. We don't know. We have to play it by ear. This video is to not put fear into anybody and make you go run in the store and grab a whole bunch of nothing. That's not what it's about. It is to inform my people what I have been informed about. If I can get on here and sip the tea and talk about stuff that is pointless, I can also inform my people on what is going on in the world around them, especially if it will affect you. And it will, because you are a part of the United States.
So right now, the talk on the internet is, the ports and everything right now. Looks like here in the United States, these ports are looking scarce. And everybody's fear-mongering and saying, now the shelves are going to be empty. Go out and get all your essentials. Hey, maybe. But I will say this. For people who think that the United States standing up to China is a bad thing, it's like you have no idea really what is actually going on. Here's what you got to understand too about China is they're not playing games either. And the games that they're trying to play is some that if you really think right now that we live in a time that there's not a country out there that's trying to take over the world, people want to, say that it's Russia or that it's even the United States. But look at what China is doing. First, look what China's doing in Africa. Okay, do your own research. But I will say this, look at also what they're doing in Mexico. Okay, they're taking all of their Chinese factories, they're building them in Mexico. You would think that they would hire Mexican employees, but that's wrong. All they're doing is they're sending Chinese nationals to go work in Mexico and fill these positions, meaning that there's Mexicans who are not getting jobs. And the Mexicans over there are like, yo, what's going on? Many of them, there's a ceramic company called Time Ceramics. They haven't paid Mexicans in 4 months. In 4 months, these Mexican laborers have been working there and have not got paid. It's all over TikTok. And I'm just like, yo, where are all my people who are like, Mexico, like, where are you at? Because somebody's got to do something about that. And it's unfortunate that I don't know if that government is going to do anything about it. I don't know. You would think that it would be the government's best interest to look out for their citizens. But when you have Chinese companies building factories in your country and then bringing in their own citizens to work those jobs, that's a problem. Furthermore, these people are not spending their money in Mexico. They're sending it back to China. Sounds a little familiar. But these tariffs that we are putting up against China, which is the main thing, should say also a lot. That we are addicted to cheap goods and cheap products. And when we build an economy on cheap products, and especially from a given country, one specific country, then you know that you got a problem. In business, we call it customer mix, okay? If I have a business and I'm doing $2 billion in revenue, and you look at my customer book and you say, okay, well, who's your customers? You're doing a lot of business, 2 billion, that's really good. But you see that I only have 2 customers. What do you think happens if one of my customers decides to go somewhere else? There goes half of my business. And this is not good. That's why you need to diversify and you need to say, you know what? I would rather do $1 billion, but spread it out over 500 companies, okay? Than to have $2 billion in revenue, and I'm only doing business with 2 companies. You want to make sure that you, quote unquote, are not putting all your eggs in one basket. And this is where America has found itself. And so what do? Well, right now, again, Donald Trump is going toe to toe with China, being like, yo, y'all have been taking advantage of us for so long. And if you want an example, look at what's going on in Mexico. Again, this has been going on for decades, by the way, where Mexico will allow China to build a factory. You know, they make cars, Chinese cars in Mexico, and then they import them through the southern border for a significantly lower tariff. As if they were just to ship it straight from China to here, they would be subject to a higher tariff. But what do? They go through Mexico and they pay a lower tariff. How is that fair? Again, United States, you know, we've been playing by the rules too much. And finally, we got somebody who's like, yo, enough is enough. And if you know anything about business and life in general, you know it's not always going to be a sweet ride. If you've ever been on a roller coaster, right now we are reaching the top. So you better brace yourself. Nobody knows when the drop is going to come. But you know what? A lot of people, again, have been saying, oh, this, that, and the other. This is, you know, he single-handedly did this to our economy. These are the same people that thought locking everybody up during a pandemic was going to be good for the economy. And when people were saying, hey, how about if you're afraid to go outside, stay home. But let's let people who want to go out, go out. If you want to work at a restaurant and you're not afraid of germs and stuff, work. But instead, what did? We shut down everything, and a lot of these businesses went out of business, okay? And then when we started to open up again, we realized like, oh, wow, business is, you know, the economy is thriving all of a sudden. It's like, yeah, you idiot. Yeah, when you let people go out and spend their money, the economy will actually start to rev up again. So these are the same people that think that shutting down everything for over a year was going to be good and safe. And it's like, look, now that we know what we know now about everything about that, you have really no room to be trying to tell us what to do. Look, Donald Trump was right about that then, and you know what? I'm going to say he's right about what's going on now, okay? And a lot of people, again, it's tough being me. I'm sure as many of you can relate. Being Hispanic, being Mexican, and having these opinions, people are going to, you know, disgrace, self-hating Mexican. But it's like, you know what? I care about Mexico enough to say that what China's doing is wrong. Those people deserve those jobs. They should be working those jobs. They want to work. And the fact that China's going over there and sending in their own employees to work those jobs is a shame. And it's a shame that nobody else is saying anything. The only people that I see really talking about it are people in America. And then you look at the people that are, you know, on the footage of the people that are there, and they're upset, and rightfully so. But you don't see nobody else talking about it. You don't see nobody else talking about it. But again, people want to talk about these ports and, oh, now we're really going to feel it. I hope, you know, y'all realize what you did. Yeah, we realize what we did. We're tired of being punked by people that have, you know, that really want to see us on our knees. They really want to see us in a vulnerable position. And now we got somebody who's like, you know what? Nuh-uh. You know what? If we're going to go toe to toe, if we're going to duke this out, let's go. Because everybody wants to make it seem like everything's going good in China. But I'll tell you what, they got their own issues too. And very soon we're going to find out here in the next coming months who's right. You know what? And if we're wrong, I don't know. We'll find out. But I really don't think that, you know, it's going to play out the way that people think. Because I know that there are other countries who are like, nah, man, like, don't be imposing those tariffs on us. Let's work together. And you know what? If China doesn't want to cooperate, we'll cooperate with you. And that's just how it's going to go.
Washington people, listen up. This is really fucking big. There are no international ships at the shipping ports in Seattle right now. And the last one is scheduled for the 29th. That means that major supply chain issues are gonna start happening really fucking soon and really fast. Basics, household items, things that we buy every day that are from international areas, China, Canada, Mexico, Central America, like we get all over Asia, just we get so much stuff, Europe too, from other countries, and we are seeing no international ships. Shelves are going to empty, and we aren't going to be able to get those things back very quickly, and prices are going to go up like crazy, and small businesses, large businesses, all sorts of people that rely on imports and exports are gonna see huge changes, and not for the better, really soon. So if there's some essentials that you need, get those. But also remember, shop local. Support your community, support your neighbors. And if you need to give money to somebody to get something, support the people in this area that need it during this time, because this is going to hit us financially so hard. Like, the consequences are hard to even, like, picture. It's so huge. So, prepare as you need to.
So everybody's freaking out because our American ports are beginning to run a little dry. But what nobody's telling you is the reason why they're looking dry. Because they used to be flooded with Chinese exports. And if our ports here in America are looking dry, could you imagine how the ports in China are looking? Look up the images of all of the ships and all of the cargo containers that are in Shanghai's port alone. You don't have to look at all China. Look at Shanghai ports. Thousands amongst thousands of ships that are disabled because they have nowhere to ship containers to. Tens of thousands of cargo containers that are filled with products that now the Chinese are having to take those items out of the containers to try to salvage some of those goods if possible. But guess what? The United States is still selling our exports. Because unlike China, 18 countries have already come to agreements with the United States on this tariff policy. And we are still working on figuring out all the little details with all of these other countries that are coming in. But how many people, other than maybe South Africa, maybe, have agreed to China's tariffs and to officially trading with China? You may get a few here and there, if that. But everybody that China has gone to has said, we're sorry, we cannot consume as much as America consumes. But on the contrary, other nations are telling us we can make what China makes. So we're still winning.
So I'm heading to the port of Long Beach right now to actually see what the hell is going on. At the very moment, there's one cargo ship, but it's literally out in the bay. Normally, when I'm here, there's like at least 5 or 6 cargo ships. The thing that's really scary right now is that I don't smell any truck gasoline. This is like the freshest I've ever smelled the port. And I've come here for raves. Like, what the hell? All right, clear road. Here we go. Okay, the first obvious sign is wild. This is a 710 right here. Normally, this whole road is filled with trucks. Like, there's barely a single truck that's like stopped except for that guy right there. And look at that. That's like a flatbed. Okay, you got one container, and you got another container, but outside of that, like, there's usually a traffic jam here. There's no traffic jam. Now I'm heading towards the Queen Mary so that way I can try and get a better view. There she is, the Queen Mary in all her beauty. Thank you, Long Beach, for keeping this beautiful ship. Okay, good sign right there. There are some trucks. One's got some cargo. There's 1, 2, 3. One has no cargo. That's scary. I also see shipping containers, which is a good sign. That truck has nothing. That's wild. Normally these flatbed trucks have containers on them. Another truck. These trucks are fucking empty. Yo, this is scary. Seeing empty flatbed trucks is wild. This whole road would be filled with trucks. Filled with trucks. Look, another empty truck. And there goes my health insurance. Who needs universal health care when you can have a massive military helicopter like the beautiful Romeo? Bye, health insurance. Okay, here's something I noticed. There's more trucks going in, which is good, but every truck that's come out has been empty, like empty flatbeds. Well, out of like 10 I've seen so far that were empty, there's one with a container, which is a good sign. But like, notice the cranes. The cranes aren't moving. They're not moving one bit. Another empty one. Literally for the past like 3-5 minutes that I've been here, I have not seen a single crane move. This is definitely not a good sign. I don't see any cranes moving. I don't see any longshoremen on the cranes. I literally see more flatbed trucks with empty cargo. And on top of that, I don't smell fucking gasoline out here. Normally, I'm hawking up a loogie because of how much gasoline there is in the port of Long Beach, but there's no gas smell. It's safe to say that we most definitely are in for it. So after carefully observing the port of Long Beach, I noticed no cranes were moving, there were no longshoremen on the cranes, no shipping containers were picked up, and almost every single truck that had a shipping container was going into the port, and almost every truck coming out of the port was empty. There were a few stragglers, which is a good sign, but I am very concerned now. Port of Long Beach is like one of the largest employers in SoCal, so this is fucking wild. Long Beach has the second busiest port in the United States, and not a single crane was moving. You may do what you want with this video, but it is safe to say from my perspective, we are royally screwed.
So, what happens now? We are an enemy to China, and we are no longer friends with Canada. I live at the port of LA, and it's true. Everything's empty. The ships are not coming in. If anything, the ships that are out there right now, they've all stopped. Do you know how much dock workers make? They aren't getting jobs anymore. They are losing their jobs. These are the best jobs. These were the most secure jobs you could have in this area, and they are dying. And when the goods aren't coming in and the dock workers aren't working, then all the businesses around us and beyond are going to be affected. It's very upsetting when you do everything right, everything you're supposed to do, and yet we're still suffering. And it's not our faults. It's not our faults. It's the people up top. It's the government. It's the billionaires. It's the rich. You get what you voted for. And now what's going to happen is we're going to have a lot more angrier citizens. We are so used to getting what we want and getting it fast. So when you go to the store, do not yell at these workers. Do not scream. Do not complain. Go to your congressman.
With the videos above, it's clear enough China is sending a warning message to US. With the Trump administration not shaken, empty containers are still arriving in the US ports. Is this a sign China is winning the tariff wars? Let me know what you think on the comment section below, and don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Thank you, family. Bye.